Good morning, 7th graders. Yesterday we looked at minor characters, and today we are going to still look at characters, but we're changing our focus. And the focus of today is characterization. We're going to learn how authors develop their characters. So here's our goals for today. I can define types of characterization, and I can identify types of characterization. So if you'd like, you can open up to your ELA notes at this time. However, you don't have to because I have made an anchor chart of these notes. It's really important that you're paying attention, however, because we do have a quiz on this later on next week. So it's really important that you get focused during this time. So characterization is the method a writer uses to develop a character. There are two types of characterization. The first one is direct characterization. And this is where a writer tells you directly in the text or in the story what kind of character he or she is. So they're telling you what kind of character they are, their character trait. So we're going to read the following passage together, and I want you to think about in your head which words directly show you Amaya's qualities. When Amaya brought home a pet rabbit, her mother did not object. She knew Amaya was a caring, responsible girl who would take excellent care of the animal. This shows, right here in the passage, some words that describe the kind of character Amaya is. If you were thinking caring, responsible girl, you were correct. It says you right there in the story what kind of character she is. So that's one type of characterization, direct characterization. The second type of characterization is indirect characterization, where the author is still showing you what kind of character they are, but they're not saying it directly in the text. Indirect characterization, the definition for that is a character's personality traits are revealed through what they say, what their character's personal thoughts are, the effect or reaction from other characters, the action, what they do, and looks, what they look like. So you'll notice here that we have an acronym for indirect characterization, the 5 types of way a character can be indirectly characterized, which is say, S, thoughts, T, affect, E, action, A, and looks, L. So STEAL is the acronym, to be able to remember that. It's a helpful memory trick. So we're going to take a look at a few examples of each one. So the first type of indirect characterization is through what characters say. So as we read this passage, I want you to pay attention to what the character's words show or reveal about his type of personality. Harry, show your talent, barked the impatient instructor. Don't hold back this time. The instructor, through his words, we're able to see that he's a strict instructor because he's pushing his students to work to the best of their ability. The next type of indirect characterization is through a character's thoughts. So I want you to pay attention to the character's thoughts or feelings in this next passage. Frank insisted that he wasn't tired or hungry, but really he was both. The long plane trip with 2 delays had left his patience in shreds. However, he didn't want Aunt Judy to go through any trouble making him dinner. So in this example, Frank shows through his thoughts that he seems pretty caring and considerate of others, because even though he's really hungry, he's not voicing his thoughts to Aunt Judy. So it's showing that he's caring and considerate. The next type of indirect characterization is the effect on others. So the reaction that other characters have with that particular character. So I want you to pay attention to Michael's effect on Maria. Michael hugged Maria before he got out of the car. I'll call you tomorrow, he said. She smiled and replied, You always say that, and you never do. He laughed. Okay, I'll text then. You'd better, Maria grinned, but her eyes were sad. So, through Maria's reaction of Michael's words and what he was saying, you can see that Michael is friendly, but pretty unreliable here. The next type of indirect characterization is through actions. Pay attention to the character's actions as we read this passage. It was a cold October day when Christy's alarm buzzed at 6 a.m. She pulled her pulled on her clothes and headed for the door. She carefully adjusted her headphones. Then she pulled the sleeves of her turtleneck over her hands to keep out the cold. Here goes 10 miles, she thought as she began her run. I have to be ready for the spring marathon. So Christy, through her actions in getting up early to run and on a cold morning as she prepares for a marathon, probably shows that she's a pretty dedicated athlete, right? Who else would wake up at 6 a.m. on a cold morning to run 10 miles, especially? Our last example here is indirect characterization is through looks. So I want you to pay attention to the character's looks and think about, what does this reveal about this man? The man seated in the parked limousine had short hair, piercing eyes, and a serious gaze. He was dressed neatly in a starched white shirt and a striped tie. So based on his looks or his appearance, what does this tell us about this character? Well, based on the man's appearance, you might conclude that he's serious, noticing his face, focused, and might be a businessman based on what he's wearing, a starched white shirt and a striped tie. So there you have it, 7th graders. A writer can show indirect characterization through actions, what they say, what others in the story say about him or her, private thoughts, and appearance. So at this time, we're going to be handing out the Steal worksheet that you're going to be working with today. And you're going to practice looking for these types of indirect characterization in your short stories. If you need an extra copy of your short story, you can find that in the back of the table. And we're going to go through just a couple examples here so you know exactly what we're looking for. So everyone follow along as we read the directions. It is time to take a closer look at the main character. Go back into the text of your short story to identify and explain aspect of the character. Find at least one textual example for each element of characterization, which is speaking, thoughts, effects on others, actions, and looks, or steal. So we're going to do a few here together. So looking back into the house on Mango Street, Esperanza says in the chapter of laughter, she says something that caught my eye that shows me that she's a very observant kind of character. This is what she says. Esperanza says the neighborhood looks like Mexico. This shows me that she's really thinking and she's observing her surroundings. So what she said looks like Mexico. What insight does the textual example give us into this character? Well, this shows me that Esperanza is observant because she's comparing the looks of her new neighborhood to houses in Mexico. So on the left-hand column, you're looking at what she's saying. I need an example and a page number, so make sure you're including page numbers. And on the right-hand column, you're going to talk about the insight the textual example gives us into the character. So what does that tell us about the type of character that they are? Let's do one more together. In that same chapter, Esperanza thinks to herself, so these are her thoughts. She thinks her laugh sounds like a pile of dishes breaking. This also shows me that Esperanza is observant, because she notices the way her laughter creates a lot of noise in this chapter. So there you have it. So here's an example of a character speaking and what that reveals on the right-hand side, and a character, what they're thinking, and also what that reveals about that character on the right-hand side. So you want to make sure that you're including textual evidence in the example, as well as explaining that textual evidence. So here's your do now. You're going to pick one of your main characters from your short stories and complete the characterization worksheet. Continue to read your second story by the same author if you finish early, or you also may read your independent reading books after you're finished. If you don't quite finish, that's okay. It's not homework. Just bring it with you tomorrow. So here are the expectations during this time. Make sure you are in one spot. You are reading and writing. So that means your eyes are on your paper and your pages are turning, looking for that textual evidence. And remember, during this time, it's a level 0 voice. All right, 7th graders, good luck, and I will see you tomorrow.